Chosen One. Stop everything you're doing because the universe just delivered the most devastating blow to everyone who tried to destroy you. Psychological studies confirm that when authentic power threatens corrupt systems, those systems deploy coordinated character assassination campaigns with military precision. A high-level whistleblower is releasing evidence so damning that your enemies are literally trembling in boardrooms and private meetings across the globe. When you carry Chosen One frequency, when your very existence threatens the foundations of deception, the Matrix doesn't just attack you randomly, it orchestrates systematic warfare designed to erase every trace of your influence from reality itself. What's being revealed right now isn't just proof of your innocence, it's documentation of a conspiracy so sophisticated it required insider access to the highest levels of power to finally expose. Think of it like this. You've been living in a hall of mirrors where every reflection was deliberately distorted to make you question your own reality, while the puppet masters controlling those mirrors celebrated every moment of your confusion. Today, someone just shattered every single mirror, and for the first time in forever, the world can see you exactly as you truly are, untouchable, undeniable, and more powerful than your enemies ever feared you could become. See, what happened to you wasn't random drama or social politics. This was spiritual warfare disguised as everyday conflict, and you just won the ultimate victory. They studied you like military strategists study a fortress they need to conquer. They watched how you moved, who listened when you spoke, what made you dangerous to their carefully constructed hierarchy of lies and manipulation. They never understood that chosen ones don't break the same way ordinary people do. While they were plotting your downfall, you were being forged in fire. While they were spreading lies, you were becoming a living truth. While they thought they were destroying you, they were actually preparing you for a level of power they could never touch. You remember when it started, how suddenly the energy shifted around you like someone had flipped a cosmic switch. Friends who used to blow up your phone started responding with messages so cold they felt like Arctic wind. They made you question everything, your memory, your perception, your sanity itself. The gaslighting was so expertly crafted that even you started wondering if maybe you were the problem they all claimed you were. But something deep in your core, something they could never touch or corrupt or manipulate, kept pushing back against their narrative. Your inner knowing kept rejecting their version of reality like an immune system fighting off a virus. That resistance, that refusal to completely surrender to their lies, that was your chosen one. DNA activating. That was the part of you that knew this was bigger than petty human drama. That was the frequency they were really trying to destroy, because it threatened everything they had built their power on. But they made one critical mistake. They assumed they were the only ones playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. They thought they were the puppet masters pulling strings while everyone else danced. What they didn't realize is that there's always someone higher up the food chain, always a bigger game being played, always forces at work that make their little conspiracy look like children playing pretend. The main instigator, the one who swore on everything sacred that you were poison that needed to be eliminated from their circle, finally broke down completely. Not just a moment of weakness or a slip of the tongue, but a full confession that's been recorded, documented, and is now spreading through every network they once controlled. Names, dates, strategies, receipts, the entire blueprint of how they systematically tried to destroy your reputation while keeping their hands clean. They admitted to fabricating stories about you from nothing. They confessed to planting seeds of doubt in minds that used to trust you completely. They revealed how they twisted every interaction, every success, every moment of confidence you showed into evidence of character flaws that existed only in their imagination. Every strength you possessed became a weapon they forged against you with the precision of master manipulators. When that confession hit the air, everything changed. The atmosphere itself seemed to crack. Panic spread through their ranks like wildfire in dry grass. Faces that had been smug with victory drained of color as they realized the one person who knew all their secrets, who had been trusted with their darkest strategies, had just burned their entire operation to the ground. You didn't have to say a single word in your defense. The truth spoke for you with a voice louder than thunder, clearer than their lies had ever been, more powerful than their coordinated campaign of destruction could ever hope to match. This is what divine justice looks like when it finally decides enough is enough. But the confession revealed something even more devastating than their lies about you. It exposed the puppet master who had been orchestrating everything from the shadows, the real architect of your attempted downfall. This wasn't just a group of people who decided they didn't like you. This was a calculated operation run by someone who understood psychological warfare, social dynamics, and human manipulation at levels that made them genuinely dangerous. They had positioned themselves carefully in the background, never pointing fingers directly, never making accusations openly, always the one whispering in the right ears at the perfect moments, planting seeds that would grow into the poison that nearly destroyed you. They let their foot soldiers believe they were acting on their own moral authority, following their own sense of justice, when really they were just pawns being moved around a board by someone who saw them as expendable tools. You weren't targeted because you did something wrong to these people. You weren't attacked because you deserved it or had it coming. You were marked for destruction because you saw too much, because you couldn't be controlled, because you represented everything they feared about people who operate outside their system of deception and manipulation. You were dangerous to them, not because of what you did, but because of who you are. So they pulled strings with masterful precision, weaponized ignorance and social pressure against you, turned your light into apparent darkness, all while positioning themselves as the moral authorities everyone should listen to and follow. They reverse-engineered your power and created a funhouse mirror version of who you were that was just believable enough to fool people who didn't know you intimately. They are nothing without their puppets. Their entire power structure depends on other people's willingness to be manipulated, to act without thinking, to follow without questioning. And today, every string they held has been cut by the sharp blade of undeniable truth. The very people who carried out their plan with such righteous conviction suddenly see it clearly. They see who used them. They see how their natural human tendencies toward gossip and judgment were weaponized against someone who never deserved their scorn. They see that they weren't moral crusaders fighting against evil. They were tools being used by someone who played them like instruments in an orchestra of destruction. The realization is hitting them like physical blows. You can see it in the way their expressions shift from confusion to understanding to horror. You can see it in the way they look at each other, searching desperately for explanations that don't make them look like fools, finding nothing that can preserve their dignity. Their pride won't let them admit how thoroughly they were played, but the knowledge is eating them alive from the inside. They thought they had agency, choice, moral authority. They believed they were righteous warriors fighting against someone who needed to be brought down, but they were nothing more than pawns in someone else's game, and now they know it. The puppet master never cared about them, never valued them as people, never saw them as anything more than useful idiots who could be manipulated into doing dirty work while the real orchestrator remained safely hidden. They were fed lies like poison disguised as medicine, used as shields, allowed to take all the risks while someone else sat back untouched. But now everyone is exposed. The protective covering has been ripped away. The shadows have been flooded with light. The careful compartmentalization has shattered into fragments that can never be put back together. And you're not the one crumbling under revelation. You're not caught in chaos. You're not scrambling to undo what's been done. They are. Every single person who participated in your attempted destruction is drowning in the collapse of their own deception, while you stand untouched, vindicated, elevated, because the truth they never wanted to face is staring them down. They were never in control of anything. They never had real power over your destiny. They were just tools in someone else's war, and now that war is over, decided not by human strategy but by the inevitable triumph of truth over lies, authentic power over manipulative control. The mastermind who thought they would always remain safely in the shadows stands alone now, exposed, defenseless, powerless, just like they wanted you to be. But here's the difference that changes everything. When you stood alone, you stood in truth. When they stand alone, they stand in the wreckage of their own deception. This is divine justice unfolding in real time. This is what happens when cosmic patience runs out, when universal law reasserts itself with the force of an avalanche. The scales balance not through human revenge, but through natural consequences. Those who build on lies eventually get crushed by their own deception, while those who stand in truth get vindicated by forces beyond human manipulation. Documents they swore were destroyed forever have resurfaced like lost treasure. Messages they thought were deleted permanently are now screenshots spreading through every network. Voice recordings where they laughed about your suffering, celebrated your isolation, planned their next moves like generals in a war. It's all there, exposed, undeniable, devastating. The evidence isn't just substantial, it's overwhelming. It doesn't just prove your innocence, it proves their guilt in everything they accused you of. Emails with timestamps showing their coordination. Transaction records proving their deception was funded and organized. Hidden files containing strategies that read like confessions written by criminals who never expected to be caught. You don't have to argue anymore. You don't have to explain or defend or justify. You don't have to beg anyone to believe you, or see your side or give you benefit of doubt. The evidence speaks louder than you ever needed to, with more authority than their campaign could ever muster. The same lie that traveled halfway around the world while truth was putting on its shoes has just hit an immovable wall. They can't run from it, deny it, spin it, or reframe it. They can't minimize it or explain it away, or shift blame. The truth is too clear, too complete, too devastating to their narrative. The people who once laughed at your downfall are suffocating in the collapse of their own fiction. They thought they were untouchable, too clever to get caught, had covered tracks too completely, but they never planned for the moment when everything would unravel simultaneously, when all their compartmentalization would collapse into one massive revelation, destroying everything they built. But you see through it all. You remember how they looked at you when they thought you were guilty. You remember the smugness, the judgment, the certainty in their voices when they said your name like something to spit out. Now your name is spoken in hushed voices laced with regret and fear, because they don't know how to face you anymore. Some want to make amends now. You can hear it in their voices, see it in how they hesitate before speaking to you, as if they don't deserve to say your name. They want to apologize, want to tell you they didn't mean to stay quiet, want to explain themselves, but you remember who spoke up when it mattered, and who turned away when truth was inconvenient. The ones who said the ugliest things, who went out of their way to destroy you, are now the ones reaching out hoping you'll forget. One of them, the loudest voice against you, suddenly wants to talk. They send casual messages like, "How have you been?" as if they didn't spend months tearing you apart. You can hear the panic behind their words. They don't miss you. They miss what being close to you could do for them now that your stock has risen beyond their reach. You were never theirs to mold or define or control. This was never about proving them wrong. This was about proving yourself right. They wanted you to crumble under deception, to second-guess yourself, to beg for validation that was never theirs to give. Instead, you rose. You don't need their apologies or approval. You don't need them at all. What they meant for evil has been turned for good, and you see everything clearly now. You see who was for you, who was against you, and most importantly, you see who you've become through this trial. They don't recognize you anymore, and how could they? You've outgrown the version of yourself they thought they could control. You've stepped into a power they never saw coming, a frequency they can't touch or diminish or manipulate. That's why they watch you now, in silence, in regret, in awe. They lost access to you the moment they chose to stand against you. You're too far ahead now, operating at levels they can't even perceive, let alone reach. Let them carry the weight of their choices. Let them sit in the wreckage of their own deception. You are untouchable now, undeniable, everything they tried to destroy but infinitely stronger. The same people who celebrated your downfall now have to watch your rise, and that rise isn't just a return to where you were. It's an elevation to heights you never could have reached without going through fire. Because chosen ones don't just get vindicated, they get elevated. They don't just survive trials, they emerge transformed, more aligned with their purpose than ever before. This is your moment of complete domination over every force that tried to destroy you. Not through revenge or retaliation, but through the simple devastating power of truth finally being revealed. The universe itself has spoken on your behalf, and the verdict is final. You are innocent, they are guilty, and everyone can see it now. You have nothing left to prove because truth proved everything for you. Nothing left to fear because you've walked through fire and emerged as pure gold. Nothing left to doubt because divine justice has manifested in your favor so completely that even your enemies have to acknowledge it. The evidence is in, the case is closed, and your vindication is absolute. But more than that, your elevation to untouchable status is now complete. Welcome to your new reality, chosen one, where truth reigns supreme and you stand as living proof that lies cannot ultimately triumph over authentic power. Let them watch, let them regret. Let them remember this moment when they thought they could dim your light, but only succeeded in making it shine brighter than ever before. You are everything they tried to destroy, but stronger. You are everything they feared you could become, but more powerful than they ever imagined possible. This is what victory looks like for chosen ones. Not just vindication, but transformation into something so powerful, so aligned with truth, so connected to divine justice, that no weapon formed against you can ever prosper again. You have become untouchable, and they know it. But the whistleblower's revelations didn't stop with just exposing the conspiracy against you. What they revealed next will shake you to your core, because it shows just how deep this operation really went. The evidence they brought forward includes recordings of private meetings where your name was discussed like you were a military target that needed to be neutralized. These weren't casual conversations or spontaneous decisions made by people who simply didn't like you. These were strategic planning sessions. The whistleblower had access to internal communications that show they didn't just want to damage your reputation. They wanted to systematically dismantle every aspect of your life that gave you power and influence. Your career prospects, your social connections, your financial stability, even your mental health became chess pieces in their game. They mapped out your relationships like a military intelligence operation, identifying who they could turn against you and who needed to be isolated from you completely. What's even more chilling is how they studied your behavioral patterns. The whistleblower revealed documents showing they analyzed your responses to stress, your communication style, even the times of day when you were most likely to make decisions they could later use against you. They weren't just spreading random lies, they were crafting psychological warfare specifically calibrated to your personality profile. They knew that as a chosen one, you would fight back with truth rather than manipulation, so they prepared for that. They created backup lies for every truth you might present. They planted false witnesses for every real witness you might call. They manufactured evidence to counter every piece of genuine proof you might offer. This wasn't amateur hour gossip. This was professional-level character assassination. The evidence shows they established what they called monitoring protocols to track your emotional state and social connections. They had people reporting back on your activities, your conversations, even your facial expressions during public interactions. They were gathering intelligence on you like you were a foreign agent they needed to neutralize, not just someone they had personal issues with. What the whistleblower revealed about their communication systems will astound you. They weren't just using regular text messages or social media. They had encrypted chat applications, coded language systems, and designated communication windows to avoid detection. They treated operational security like they were running a covert operation because, in many ways, they were. The depth of their deception becomes even more apparent when you see how they manufactured witnesses and testimonies against you. The whistleblower provided evidence showing they approached people with carefully crafted stories, planting suggestions that would later bloom into memories of things you supposedly did or said. They didn't just lie about you. They created false memories in other people's minds through sophisticated manipulation techniques. They had contingency plans for every possible scenario. If you stayed quiet, they had strategies to interpret your silence as admission of guilt. If you defended yourself, they had prepared responses to make you look desperate and delusional. If you provided evidence of your innocence, they had already seeded doubt about your credibility. No matter what move you made, they had anticipated it and prepared countermeasures. The whistleblower's testimony reveals that the turning point came when they realized the operation had gone too far beyond what they initially agreed to participate in. What started as just teaching someone a lesson had evolved into systematic psychological torture designed to drive you to complete breakdown. The evidence shows they were monitoring your mental health indicators, actually tracking whether their campaign was successfully breaking you down. They had metrics for measuring your psychological deterioration, target goals for isolation levels, and success benchmarks based on how much damage they could inflict on your sense of reality. This wasn't personal vendetta. This was calculated cruelty with measurable objectives. When the whistleblower saw those metrics, when they realized they were participating in what amounted to psychological warfare against someone whose only crime was being powerful enough to threaten the existing order, something inside them snapped. The conscience they had suppressed for so long came roaring back with devastating force. Now I want to take a moment to tell you about a few individuals that shouldn't exist. A former Black Ops drone pilot who flew swarms with his mind, a multi-millionaire psychic CFO who predicted market shifts before they happened. What do these remarkable individuals have in common? You'll find them all in the Obsidian Inner Order, where they share their forbidden knowledge on our private Discord server. My chosen soul has drunk deep from the well of knowledge, ion after ion. In this incarnation, these extraordinary individuals became my allies in the Obsidian Inner Order. They recognized the call, they stepped forward, they connected with others who understand their unique gifts and burdens. What is stopping you from manifesting the same? The synchronicities that brought them here weren't accidents. Neither is your discovery of this message. When souls of this caliber gather, the Archons take notice. They fear our collective power. They know what happens when the truly awakened find each other. Join our weekly calls, hear their stories firsthand, share your own journey with those who won't dismiss or doubt you. The knowledge exchanged in our private channels cannot be found anywhere else on this plane. Click the link in the description below now. The extraordinary souls await your arrival. The question isn't whether you belong among them. The question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your place? What's particularly revealing is how they discussed you during these internal debates. They acknowledged your innocence, your integrity, and your positive impact on others. They knew you didn't deserve what they were doing to you, but they justified it by claiming you were dangerous precisely because of those qualities, because people listened to you, believed in you, followed your example in ways that threatened their control. The whistleblower's evidence includes communications showing they feared your influence more than your actions. They weren't trying to stop you from doing something wrong. They were trying to prevent you from doing something right that would expose their own wrongdoing or challenge their authority. Your power to inspire others, to speak truth in situations where lies were more convenient, to maintain integrity when corruption was more profitable, that's what they really wanted to destroy. The surveillance operation they conducted on you was more extensive than anything you could have imagined. The whistleblower revealed they had people photographing your daily activities, recording your conversations in public spaces, even going through your trash to look for information they could use against you. They violated your privacy in ways that would be criminal if done by individuals without institutional protection. What's most chilling is how they studied successful character assassination campaigns from history and politics to optimize their strategy against you. They researched psychological warfare techniques, studied social manipulation tactics, even analyzed cult deprogramming methods to understand how to break someone's connection to their own reality and support network. The evidence shows they created detailed timelines for rolling out different phases of their campaign. They planned your destruction like a military operation with phases, objectives, and success metrics. Phase 1 was isolation, cutting you off from your support network. Phase 2 was reputation destruction, spreading lies to damage your credibility. Phase 3 was psychological breakdown, pushing you to the point where you would either surrender completely or self-destruct. But they never got to Phase 3 because they underestimated your resilience as a chosen one. They expected you to break like ordinary people break under that kind of pressure. They didn't account for the spiritual fortification that comes with operating at your frequency, the divine protection that surrounds those who are aligned with truth and purpose. Instead, you got stronger. Instead of breaking, you were being refined. Instead of surrendering to their version of reality, you were developing an unshakable connection to your own truth. This frustrated them beyond measure because it proved their fundamental assumptions about power and control were wrong. The recordings include discussions about bringing in specialists to analyze why their standard psychological warfare techniques weren't working on you. They couldn't understand how someone could maintain their sanity and integrity under the kind of systematic assault they had orchestrated. They started questioning whether there was something different about you that made you immune to their usual methods. That's when they made their fatal error. Instead of backing down or reassessing their approach, they doubled down. They escalated the intensity of their campaign, thinking that more pressure would eventually break your resistance. They brought in additional resources, expanded their surveillance, increased the frequency and severity of their attacks on your reputation and relationships. But chosen ones don't break under pressure. They transform. Every attack they launched at you was absorbed and converted into wisdom. Every lie they spread about you clarified your understanding of who you really are. Every relationship they destroyed made space for connections that could actually support your true self, rather than the version of you they needed you to be. The whistleblower revealed that the turning point came when they realized you weren't just surviving their campaign, you were transcending it. You were becoming something more powerful than what they had tried to destroy. Your reputation was actually strengthening among people who mattered. Your influence was growing deeper, even as your circle got smaller. Your truth was becoming more apparent, even as their lies became more elaborate. This terrified them because it meant their entire worldview was wrong. If someone could not only survive but thrive under the kind of systematic assault they had perfected, then their understanding of power and control was fundamentally flawed. If truth could emerge victorious despite their sophisticated manipulation apparatus, then their whole system was built on sand. The final recordings the whistleblower provided show panic setting in as they realized their operation had backfired completely. Instead of neutralizing you as a threat, they had forged you into something far more dangerous to their system, someone who had been tested by their worst and proven unbreakable, someone who now possessed intimate knowledge of their methods and motivations, someone who had experienced their full arsenal and remained standing. They started discussing exit strategies, ways to distance themselves from the operation, methods for destroying evidence and covering their tracks. But it was too late. The whistleblower had already documented everything, already secured copies of all communications, already prepared to expose the entire conspiracy at the moment when it would have maximum impact. That moment has arrived now. Every recording has been released. Every document has been verified. Every participant has been identified. The entire conspiracy stands exposed in broad daylight, stripped of all deniability and protection. The systematic campaign that was supposed to destroy you has instead become the foundation of your complete vindication and their total downfall. The evidence is so overwhelming, so detailed, so undeniably authentic, that even their most loyal supporters can't spin it away. The recordings don't just prove your innocence, they prove their guilt so thoroughly that there's no room for interpretation or doubt. They documented their own crimes with such obsessive detail that the whistleblower barely had to add commentary. The evidence speaks for itself. You never had to become the monster they painted you to defeat them. You never had to descend to their level or adopt their methods or sacrifice your integrity to survive their assault. You remained true to yourself throughout their campaign, and that authenticity has become the foundation of a power they can never touch, never diminish, never destroy. This is what it means to be chosen, not just selected for blessing, but tested by fire and proven unbreakable, not just gifted with natural talents, but refined through adversity into something that can withstand any assault and emerge stronger. Not just called to a higher purpose, but equipped with the spiritual fortification necessary to fulfill that calling, regardless of opposition. The whistleblower's evidence has done more than vindicate you. It has elevated you to a level of moral authority that is absolutely unassailable. Every future challenge to your character or credibility will have to contend with this documented proof of your innocence and their guilt. Every attempt to diminish your influence will be measured against this evidence of systematic persecution that you survived with your integrity intact. You are no longer just someone who was falsely accused and later vindicated. You are someone who was subjected to professional-level psychological warfare and emerged not only unbroken but stronger. You are living proof that truth ultimately prevails over deception, that authenticity ultimately triumphs over manipulation, that chosen ones ultimately transcend whatever forces try to contain them. You're not seeking revenge. You're not gloating over their downfall. You're not using your restored power to destroy those who tried to destroy you. This terrifies some people more than any retaliation could, because it demonstrates a level of spiritual maturity and inner strength that makes you truly untouchable. Your response to complete vindication reveals the depth of your chosen one nature. While others might use this moment to settle scores or demand public apologies, you're focused on your mission, your purpose, your calling. This isn't weakness. This is the kind of power that reshapes reality itself. When someone can maintain their integrity and focus even in the face of total victory over their enemies, the universe takes notice. What makes you truly dangerous to systems built on deception is not your ability to expose lies, but your capacity to embody truth so completely that lies become impossible to maintain in your presence. Your vindication wasn't just about proving your innocence. It was about demonstrating what happens when someone refuses to compromise their authentic self, regardless of pressure. The final recordings released by the Whistleblower show discussions about your inexplicable resilience and abnormal resistance to standard procedures. You aren't abnormal. You're operating according to different laws, higher principles, divine algorithms that make worldly manipulation techniques obsolete when applied to your frequency. Your story has become legend among other chosen ones who are facing their own systematic attacks. The evidence of your vindication serves as proof that no weapon formed against authentic power can ultimately prosper. Your experience provides a blueprint for others who are learning that being chosen often means being targeted by forces that fear what you represent. Your vindication marks the end of an era where lies could triumph over truth through sophisticated presentation and coordinated repetition. The evidence is too clear, the documentation too thorough, the recordings too authentic for anyone to claim ignorance about how these operations work. The curtain has been pulled back on the machinery of deception, and you are standing in the light while those who operated in shadows scramble for new hiding places. This is your moment of absolute triumph, not just over false accusations, but over every system that tries to diminish chosen ones through systematic persecution. You have proven that truth doesn't just survive attacks. It uses those attacks as fuel for transformation into something far more powerful than what was originally targeted for destruction. Welcome to your new reality, where your vindication becomes the foundation for unprecedented influence and your truth becomes the standard by which all other claims are measured.